Good afternoon, everybody. I really hope you're good. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late this afternoon. I've just ran over slightly when I was doing the instructor help video for chair-based adaptations for Pilates. So this lunchtime session is going to be all about helping you improve your balance with exercise. And I'm going to give you lots of tips that you can do, lots of different exercises that can help. And if you've got a spiky ball, I would definitely recommend that you use your spiky ball because we're going to really hopefully release the feet. You may also want to grab a light weight. I'm going to use just a 1.5 plate for this and just have them kind of to the side. Now, obviously, if you're doing this for you personally and you need to hold the wall at any time, absolutely do it. If you're an instructor and you're doing this for content, always give clients the option to be near that wall and they can hold on there as well. The other prop I'm going to use is a block, gang. So I'm going to use a block as well for this. So hopefully that will make sense. Got a little bit of music in the background, although I'm not going to work to it really. So the first thing I want to do is actually get these feet to be functional, because a lot of the time people's balance is affected hugely by the way the feet function. And if there's any implication that's stopping those feet functioning properly, it's going to affect your balance. It's going to affect the way that you move. So say, for instance, you've got a very tight fascia on the bottom of the foot. That's going to affect how you can balance and spread your weight in that foot. If you've got a bunion on that foot, that's going to affect the way that your weight distribution is, because maybe that bunion's really painful and you're able to actually apply any pressure there. Or toes on the diagonal, which again is going to change that weight because you're not able to put your big toe down where it should be. So these things can happen. So I just want you to be aware of that. We're going to try and get the feet to release first. So the first thing I want us to do is just take a little walk down your mat. Be aware of how you feel. And you're going to walk just down and through. And I want you to think about, do you have any issues with your feet? Is there anything that restricts your movement with those feet? And then take a pedal push whenever you feel ready. There's no rush. So you could maybe do a few more of those walks. And then I want you to pedal through your feet. And I want you to think, can you get your feet to actually move, lifting and lowering up and down? Can you feel your toes spread into the ground? How does that feel for you? How's the movement that you've got here? Then we're going to grab the spiky ball. We're going to put that spiky ball underneath our right foot and we're going to rub. Now, this is where if you know you struggle with balance to start with, you might want to do this and hold on to a wall at the same time. So I'll show you that in a second when we change the feet over. But essentially, you would have the ball, the outside from wherever you're holding on to. The leg you're stationary on is going closer to the stationary point. So I want you to rub this foot, go on the inside of your arch, under your toes, under the ball of your foot, the back of your heel, and get that to really move. So if your arches of your foot are very high and tight, that can affect your balance because it can affect the way that you move as well and the way you walk, where you put your weight distribution. If your feet are very flat, again, that's going to affect your balance because, again, your weight distribution is going to be slightly off. So I want you to apply as much pressure as you possibly can here. Really push. And any sweet spots you find, work into them a little bit stronger. Then when you feel ready, you're going to switch sides. So if you were holding on to something doing this, you would have the foot with the ball on the outside, holding on to the wall or the chair or the bar, whatever you've got there. That's it. So you're going to really press into that foot as much as you can. Get these feet to really warm up, to function. Because there's a couple of other factors that will affect your balance, which you may not realize. So the first one is your inner ear. If there's any issues with your inner ear, if there is any infection, if you've got any infection, maybe there's any vertigo, that's going to affect your balance as well, massively. So you might want to get that checked out by your GP. There's nothing we can do exercise-wise that's going to sort that out, unfortunately. Okay, relax. Then I want you to take these legs wide. Go with a really wide stance, and I want you to stretch your inner thighs. Now, this is another area that a lot of people don't realize. If your inner thighs are tight, it will pull on the pelvis, and it will change that position of the pelvis, which can affect your balance. So we want to stretch the inner thighs as much as possible and make sure these are not tight, because that could be an absolute, major factor. And you could try and do any balance exercises you could, but with a tight inner thigh, it's not going to happen. Good work. Then coming up, and I want you to now put your feet underneath your hip bones. When you stand too narrow, you're going to be off balance. So if your balance is an issue for you, I want you to always try and go with a bit more of a wider stance. I also want you to use a focal point in front of you, something that's not too low down, something at your eye height, and something that's not moving. So if you've got a picture on the wall, or if you've got, an ornament or something that you can look at, not necessarily me, I want you to pick your eyes on that spot, keep your eyes on that spot, and you're going to start to lift up on your right side, up on your left, and then down on your right, down on your left. So keep your eyes on that focal point, and you're lifting up onto your toes, up, up, down, down. How's your balance here as you do this? So just by lifting one side first, rather than trying to lift both heels off the floor at the same time. Again, this could be done against a wall. Now change sides. So you're going to lift with the left first. This is a brilliant little kind of exercise that's going to help with your balance. And you could hold onto the wall, or just maybe hold one finger onto the wall for like a little bit of a security blanket. But just by lifting one side first, sometimes that can massively improve your balance. But that focal point is something that we used to use when we were dancing, when you're doing lots of pirouettes, to keep your focus, to keep your balance, so you didn't get dizzy and didn't fall over. Often a lot of people who struggle with their balance spend too much time looking down. And if you're looking down, that's the way you're going to go, yeah? Get that head up, eye line, pick that focus point and stay with it. Well done. Now, come to the back of your mat. We're going to come up onto our toes, and I want you to walk along your mat up on your toes, and then I want you to walk backwards on your heels. Have your wide as you need them to be. Up onto your toes. This is all improving the function of your feet. So like I said, a lot of people struggle with balance because their feet do not function properly. So these are all little functional feet exercises. Right, now reverse that. Go forward on your heels, backwards on your toes. That might be a little bit more challenging. See how that feels. Forward on your heels. Go backward on your toes. Now go forward on the outsides of your feet, and then backwards on the insides of your feet. So we're going to really supinate as we come forward, and then we're going to pronate as we come back. And then I want you to do that in reverse. So I want you to go forward as you pronate, so on the insides of your feet, big toes, and then backwards supinate on the outside of your feet. So again, all of these are just getting these feet to really function properly. Well done. Stand towards the front of your mat, and I want you to push back on your right and push back on your left foot. Ankle mobility is a big, big factor on balance. And if you have got anything that is preventing your ankle mobility, That needs to be, again, addressed first. Otherwise, your balance is never, ever going to get better. So what I'm doing here is I'm stretching your calves, but I'm also giving that foot a little bit of flexion as it goes through. I'm going to work a bit stronger on ankle mobility. This is where I'm going to grab the block. Now, you could do this, again, against a wall, holding on. This time, you're going to put that block with the foot on the outside. This leg is going to be lovely and long. Now, we can hold on to the wall if we need to for a bit of support, or we can just go with a finger. Think about that focal point in front of you, and you're doing your flex and point, and you're going to do your rotations. Don't rush this. Go around both ways. Now move the foot in and out. And the reason I'm standing on a block is to challenge your balance, but kicking your proprioception here as well. Well done. And then let that leg swing. So again, hip mobility makes a difference. And obviously this could be then done eventually away from the wall, standing on the block, pointing and flexing the foot. We need to work on our proprioception of our feet just the way that we work everything else. So by standing on the block, it makes it challenging for the balance, but also we've got room to be able to move the other leg free from the floor. So going into that little swing, forward and back, and then moving the foot inwards and outwards. So you're working on that ankle mobility. Good work. So I'm going to change this, and we're going to come up to a little lift. Again, we're just working on that little ankle mobility and proprioception. Now, can you start to move your foot? Move it back. Move it out. Move it forward. So we're just letting that foot release into the floor. I'm changing the position, going into like a tightrope, and then going wider to the side, and change. So foot on the block. You might want to start centered, just a little lift, and then you start to challenge that foot into different positions. So coming round the front, coming round the sides. That's it. Try not to look down too much. You know, I said if you're looking down, that's the way that you're going to go. Good. Well done. Okay, so now we can bring our weight in. I did some of these exercises earlier in the holistic core, but again, this is helpful for your balance as well because it helps with your proprioception. So I'm going to bring my right foot forward and back with a tap, and I'm staying in contact with the floor. My weight is going into my left side. Now, option one, you just keep it still. Use the weight to counterbalance you. Option two, come up to shoulder height. And you can have your palm down or you can have your thumb up. So as my foot comes forward, my weight goes back and vice versa. And then we can start to bring that higher. No rush. So now I'm really working on that proprioception, coordination, and balance. Good work. Let's change to the other side. So weight stays still, and we just point forward and back. Squeeze the muscles in the bottom, get that connection going on. Well done. And then from here, we can start to bring the weight up to shoulder height. So as my foot goes back, weight comes up. And as my foot comes forward, my weight goes down. I can then change that. Bringing that through. Perfect. 4 more. 3, 2, 1. Good work. Well done. So that's another little nice way that you can do things. Making sure those feet are nice and wide. You've got a really good sturdy stance. Use your focal point in front of you. So eyes up at that, whatever it might be that's not moving. Then shift your weight from right to left foot. As you shift your weight, I want you to feel all the points of your foot, your little toe, your big toe, the back of your heels. We're going to shift the weight over and see if we can just lift the foot a little bit. So come up onto the toe, shift the weight. You're not leaning too much, but you've got this really good spread of the weight in that foot that you want to stand on. So many people, the reason they wobble when they lift one foot off the floor is because they're not standing properly to start with. So I'm just shifted that weight from right to left to get that connected for you. So now as you're happy doing this, you can start to lift that leg up. So we're going to take the foot down and then we lift the leg. That's it. Down. You've got that weight really well distributed in that foot. It's always much more helpful if there's a balance issue to have the hands in a fixed position. If you try and move your arms at the same time, that's even more challenging for the balance. So be kind to yourself if balance is an issue. Either hold on to something or put those hands on the hips. Good work. Lifting and lowering. Well done. And then let's try and stay up and lift. So obviously if you do need the wall, have it, but maybe just try and go with your fingertips. If you're always reliant on that wall, your balance is never ever going to get better. So we do need to do some things that are going to challenge us, make us work a little bit harder, and then change sides. Lift. Good work. Now instead of lifting your knee forward because you can see it, I want you to take that leg back behind you so you can't see it. Now this is going to improve your proprioception, whether or not you do it with your foot touched onto the floor or your leg lifted. Anything where you take your legs back works your proprioception much, much stronger. So from the perspective of exercise, taking a glute squeeze is working our proprioception much harder than taking, say, for instance, a knee lift, float forward. So we could tap back and then squeeze. Back and in. Tap, squeeze, back and in. Tap, squeeze, back and in. And if lunges are possible, a backward lunge is much better for proprioception than a forward lunge. So you're going to put your toes down as far as you can, bend the knee, then lift. Not quick. Just take your time. No rush. You're making 2 right angles with your legs. Step the foot back first. Get it happy. The other thing to be aware of is when you try and do something with one foot behind the other, it's much more challenging on the balance. So keep those feet wide. That's going to be better for your balance as well. So feet on train tracks, not a tightrope. Nice and wide. Here. So backward lunge, much better for proprioception than a forward lunge because you can't see where you're going. Good work. Pedal push through your feet. Okay, so a couple of other tips for you. If we come down to the floor and we think about a move that actually really works our balance, is our Superman. But again, it's all about your setup, because if your setup is wrong, your balance is going to be off straight away. So we want to think about our weight distribution now in our hands, even from right to left. So shift your weight slightly from here. Weight distribution even in the knees. If you've got your knees too close together, you're going to be off-centered, you're going to wobble, okay? So go wide with your stance. Then what I want you to think about is, rather than lifting straight up, I want you to slide your arm and your leg along your mat and then bring it back. And when you bring it back, be careful you're not bringing it back too close, because often what happens is people are essentially bring the legs back especially, and because they can't see them, they'll bring them back and they'll end up with their knees literally side by side. So when you've got this going on, stay with this, but then you can start to gently lift. Bring it back to the floor and then come back again. Slide along, lift, come back and in. Slide and lift. So you're taking your time. You're keeping that stance, that centering between the hands and the knees, and then between that opposite hand and knee. And this could be just your little, again, homework move to help to improve your balance. Yeah? Good stuff. Gang, I really hope that was beneficial. Just a couple of things I want to add there, and this really is for anybody who is an instructor as well. If you're working with clients who are hypermobile, people with hypermobility tend to work really fast. They do things really quite dynamically, and they don't work on control. And for them, their balance is terrible. And that's because they're just wanting to literally lift as quickly or move as quickly as they possibly can. So if you're working with hypermobility clients, a way to really improve their strength, their stability, and their balance is to keep them in contact with the floor in some way, shape, or form, doing a close chain exercise. So for instance, hypermobility clients, if they're doing Superman, they'll have a tendency of lifting straight up and they're coming out of alignment and they're working really fast. Keep them in contact with the floor and work on that stability, that strength. And whether or not you need to use a band in their hand or around their thighs to keep them stable, slow them down. So they need to stay close chain exercise rather than up. So with your stuff that you're doing standing, if you're taking a circle around the front and around the back, which is really distracting for the balance, hypermobility clients, essentially because their proprioception's really bad, will do this really quickly and then they'll be all wobbly all over the place. Keep them in contact with the floor, slow them down. Give them a speed they need to work at. So they're going around for a count of 4 and back for a count of 4. And that will really help. But please let me know if there's any questions at all. I did do a masterclass, and I know I gave Sue a copy of this last year, all about fitness Pilates to improve your balance. If you would like a copy of that masterclass and you haven't seen it, feel free to let me know and I'll send it to you, which is no problem. You can find them under Kelly's masterclasses in the group. If you search your little magnifying glass and you put Kelly's masterclasses. But if you're watching, anything kind of, and you're thinking, I just can't find it, let me know and I'll be able to send it to you straight away. All right. Take care, gang. Hopefully that was beneficial and I'll see you soon.